everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I'm Evan Ruben, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello.
Ruben Bressler.
Hi, how are you guys?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Man, it's time for some M19.
Awesome. I'm so ready.
The core set has returned.
Did you guys get to pre-release this weekend?
I did not. I've been turbo busy. One of the main reasons, I mean, there are several reasons why we didn't do an M19 set review. Obviously, Erin with her new position. But also, I have like 60 hours of work a week at the poker dealing. And so I've been swamped with that. So didn't make it out to a pre-release.
Yeah, and it's kind of like literally smack in the middle of I have all 5 kids for 3 weeks during the summer, and this is those 3 weeks. So like it's hashtag 5 kids, and it's just there's a lot of kids up in here, and they take time and energy. And
if you have a couple of more, you can just have your own pre-release. I mean,
I know, right? I'll just buy 8 packs and we'll just like sit around. It'll be super sweet, you know.
Come on, y'all.
Who can break the Irwin meta? You know, it's gonna be fan-freaking-tastic.
I love it.
Absolutely. So we also begin with our choice, the top comment from last week in a segment we call Honorable Mention. Well, Ruben will tell us who was the most luxuriant and letting us know what card we didn't choose as one of our top 10 hate cards. Ruben?
Well, this week's winner is Colts Fan 354, who writes, "How do you have a top 10 hate cards without mentioning my honorable mention, Hurkyl's Recall? More than Stony Silence, more than Blood Moon, this is the card that keeps the scourge of Eternal Formats affinity in check. When I think of hate cards, it was the first that came to mind, and a shame 2 weeks in a row that what I thought was an obvious pick has gone unmentioned. For shame." I assume he was a member of the Krenko mob from the previous week, and of course he was Hurkyl's Recall. Hopefully this makes up for it in some small fashion. At this point, we can only apologize.
Yeah, we had a lot of love for Hurkyl's Recall in the comments, and I had a lot of very confused listeners that were like, those ain't hate cards. But, you know, I enjoyed, you know, for me, I kind of wanted to play with the notion of a hate card, and specifically the notion of an anti-hate card, and, you know, just kind of expanding on what that term means, you know. So I appreciate the people who were, you know, patient with me as I tried something new and a new spin on it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean...
everything's a hate card when you're Aaron Campbell.
It really is.
I hate that card, and I hate that card.
Bob Ross MTG and blocked. You know, absolutely. I mean, it felt weird. Well, first of all, it's just, you know, Dark Blast, a hate card, I guess. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's however you want to define it. But, you know, who says we can't take criticism?
A sideboard card comes in against specific strategies. Like, isn't that
sure. It's a sideboard. Like, if we're talking about hate cards being on the sideboard, it's fine. And who says that we don't take criticism here? We're literally awarding someone a gift certificate for saying, for shame.
Absolutely.
For shame.
Yeah, because they're cute about it. Like, most people are pretty respectful, but there were 1 or 2 people got a little fasty pants. So.
A little hurt. Well, right. Colts Fan 354, thanks to CoolStuffInc.com.
Thank you
now have a $25 gift certificate. Please contact us on social media. If you're still looking for one, contact Erin. She'll tell me. I'm sorry.
True. I'm basically like the secretary of the show.
It's just, at this point, I'm just going to give you a list, and you're going to have a list, and you just mark them off after you use them, and it's cool if you don't mind. That would be great.
Not a bad idea.
Well, I'll get a clipboard and put chopsticks in my hair.
There you go. Fantastic. All right. So that said, it's time for Core 2019, the return of the core set. All of the legendary dragons. We'll see how many show up in our top 10, which I think will be interesting.
Did you say top 10?
No, I bet if I did, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that for about half of this list, I get to just like, hang out. So
that's good because you're still getting over something, right? So you can take a breather in the middle.
Rest up.
Well, no, I'm meds. I'm okay. All right, fine.
Oh.
I get to do nothing but what you talk about magic cards.
This is the only time you get a nap during the day.
That's
true.
This is during your break time.
This is peace and quiet right now, by the way. It's fantastic. All right, so let's move on here to number 10. Ruben, what's your number 10?
There aren't a ton of lands in this set, but there is one really interesting one in Detection Tower, which is my number 10. And I like it for a couple of reasons, but let's get to what it does first. It taps to add a colorless mana to your mana pool. It's a rare in M19, and it has pay a colorless and tap, Until end of turn, your opponents and creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the target of spells and abilities you control as though they didn't have hexproof. The first level, level 0, the regular size brain is, ooh, this is an answer to Boggles. We finally get to shock Slippery Boggles and Terror and things like that. The next level, though, is the reason why this is in the set instead of Arcane Lighthouse, which is a commander card that was able to shut off Hexproof and Shroud on creatures. And that's that you get to turn off Leyline of Sanctity. And that's what I really like about Detection Tower, is that it's a possibility that this could sneak its way into Modern Burn as a way to get around Detection, or a way to get around Leyline of Sanctity. As maybe a one of, maybe a two of, like one main, one side kind of deal. That deck is really reliant upon colored mana sources, though, with Eidolon of the Great Revel and things like that. But being able to target your opponents, I mean, even cards that have, or decks that have discard spells in them might want to have access to Detection Tower to be able to target your Liliana of the Veil ultimates, for example, can be used with a Detection Tower. So I just think this is a really interesting effect to have in Standard.
Yeah, I'm happy with any land that kind of, messes with the status quo or provides you a different option to attack a thing that's annoying, like Bogles. Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah.
But, to me, Bogles is just so very demoralizing. It's like, nope, can't do anything about it. Nope, you ain't got any sacrifice spells. Nice Path to Exile or whatever.
Yeah.
So you got to eat it on that one. That said, Aaron, what's number 10?
If you're horny, let's do it. Ride it. Bone Dragon, my number 10. So Bone Dragon is a 3 and 2 black. It's a creature dragon skeleton. It's a 5/4 flying. You can pay 3 and 2 black to exile 7 other cards from your graveyard and return Bone Dragon from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So I love using all parts of the buffalo. If I'm going to be milling myself, I'm going to be dredging, you want cards that you can bring back from your graveyard, because if you can't cast them from your graveyard, it feels very bad when you lose them. And typically they give us like little things. Like we get 2/1s, we get like a 1/1. Sometimes they're feeling really nice and they give us a 3/1, but we don't normally get like big things like that. This is a really big thing. This is a 5/4 dragon with flying that you can bring back. It's very easy to get 7 cards in your graveyard. There's been talk of standard zombies being a thing for a little while. We have the 1/1 zombie that lets you mill 3, so it's very easy to feed this thing. And this is exactly what I want to be doing. Like the only thing better than a dragon is a dead dragon. And so if you're playing prized amalgams in older formats, this will bring back all of your amalgams. The only bummer is it comes back tapped, but it's great to do at the end of turn. But if you do want something a little bigger than the smaller options we have, this is a really good choice.
I mean, being able to do this at instant speed is serious business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, leaving mana up, not opening it up to Cleansing Nova or a Fumigate, that's a big deal. And having this as your finisher in like a control deck also is a perfectly reasonable option. You can fill your graveyard up with lots of garbage like Negate and other counter spells and random fetch land kind of garbage or dead planeswalkers, and the Bone Dragon's happy to eat those and come back from the graveyard. So that's a good pick.
It's a threat that just keeps coming back. I mean, I thought it was more mana than 5, but it's just 5 and 7 other cards, and that's a hell of a rate no matter how you're paying for it, which is terrific. All right, so let's move on here to my number 10. And this is just the pure Timmy goodness, okay? Sometimes I'm a Timmy Spike. I like to win, but I like insane, incredible, and awesome things to happen in Magic. It makes me happy. And I'm just telling you, if you went back to 1996, all right, and teenage Evan hanging out in West High School in Morristown, Tennessee, and said, "Hey, dude, check out this 5-mana 10/10. Check out this Gigantesaurus. This thing is huge. It's 5 mana for a 10/10. I'm like, it's 5 mana for a 10/10. He's like, it's 5 mana for a 10/10. And then we just like say that for a little while, and then we flip out, and oh my god, because it's like everything I want in Dream. And it's awesome because it's like absolutely so unplayable and limited. It's actually freakishly unplayable. Don't get anywhere near this card unless you're literally mono green. If you're somehow mono green, this card is amazing. Otherwise, it's actually unplayable. But no, Gigantesaurus is 5 green mana for a 10/10 rare dinosaur. The end. Done. This wasn't like back in the day when everything had to suck or had a weird, drawback or whatever. The Bone Dragon would, do something horrible to you to make him come back. The 10/10 would make you sacrifice things, or you have to tap things, or have to own certain things, or have certain permanents. No. It's just 5, 10, the end. Wizards has been just like getting closer to this whole like, how much is it going to be for a 2020? Well, we know how much it is for a 1010.
Right.
10 green.
This is literally one of our Going Infinite segments on a Magic card, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I also love that Vivian Reed is actually Steve Irwin. Let's get a closer look. Yeah, and I'm really curious to see what the Spanish translation of this is. I'm hoping it's Gigantesaurus, because that would make me quite... Yeah. That'd be delightful.
Absolutely. So yeah, sometimes you just need the Timmy to come out in a 5-mana 10/10, and that's just beautiful.
Amen.
All right, Aaron, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is a card that I encountered at the pre-release the other day and was surprisingly good. But I look at this more as just a flavor win. I think this is what Mara would call a top-down design, but I'm not really positive on that. One of you can certainly correct me. But it's just so flavorful, and for that reason alone, it deserves mentioning on my list. My number 9 is Suspicious Bookcase.
Mm-hmm.
So Suspicious Bookcase is an artifact creature wall, costs 2 mana. It's an 0/4 with Defender, and then you can pay 3 and a colorless to tap it, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. So it's literally like you see in the movies. You have that if you're watching like the mystery or the murder mystery, the old man in the manor has this beautiful study. In one of the bookcases, if you move a book, it opens up and there's a trap door which leads to a basement or something like that. And this is a perfect summary of that. You have the bookcase, it looks kind of funny. There's the one book with the very strange title. And then if you do the thing, it essentially lets your creature go through the trap door and go through unblocked. And so this is just amazing. This is another one of those cards that I'm surprised we haven't had before. Magic's been around for 25 years and no one's thought of a Suspicious Bookcase. Like, really? But it's fantastic. And it definitely did some work this weekend with the, Colossal Dreadmaw. Whoop! Unblockable. Like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, it took us 25 years to get a short sword. So, like, we're starting from the bottom. And now we're here. I mean, all the books were dusty with disuse, save the one titled Camouflage and its practical applications.
Good.
It's so sweet. And yeah, this is definitely a top-down, flavorful design. Terrific, works with the art amazingly well. Also is a very subtle card in terms of what it does for the limited format. Sometimes the games just need to end. Like, they actually just need to end. And what Suspicious Bookcase can do is do that for you. Is, okay, you have something huge, now just let it end the game already. Because otherwise you can turn into huge standoffs, often with core sets that have high toughness, low power, or at least slower build-up.
Yeah,
or just board stalls, late in the game, and this can do a nice Rogue's Passage impression. This is my buddy Harry Corvasi's favorite card in the set. Just love the flavor of this card. It's super awesome. Just sneaking down to the Batcave from Wayne Manor. It is a little confusing that it's a creature. Which is I don't know about that one, because it's if it was a creature, I could see it as like a mimic from D&D, but those like attack you. And this doesn't have any power. So I'm a little confused on that front. But be that as it may, I will swallow that bitter pill of that slight flavor thing just to have Suspicious Bookcase be a card that exists.
Well, yeah, but how cool. Think of how cool that would be if you were playing like EDH, for example, and you would assault formation. I want an army of bookcases. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm
attacking you with my four power bookcase with my Arcades on the board.
Love it.
Absolutely. All right. So, Ruben, what's your number 9?
Earlier, when we were looking at preview cards, the very first preview cards that came out, there were like 5 or 6, and I latched onto one immediately, being like, this is my favorite card. This will be my favorite card in the set. It didn't end up being my favorite card in the set. It ended up being my favorite common in the set, and it's still my number 9. My number 9 is SkyScanner. SkyScanner is a 3 colorless mana artifact creature Thopter. It's a 1/1 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. In a long line of value 1/1s that come into the battlefield and draw a card, would be great if there was the emerge mechanic still, obviously, for Filigree Familiar and Pilgrim's Eye. Loved living in that format. Right. This is a little bit weaker than that. This is more along the lines of Merchant of Secrets from Legions, but it's going to go right into my Itali Brawl deck, because that deck only wants artifact creatures running around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really good for it. Those Animar commander decks. Gets you basically a free cycle and an extra counter. And it's going to be nice with those Tishar historic decks. Tishar being the 3 colorless and a white 2/2 flyer, that when you cast a historic spell, you can bring a creature with converted mana cost 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. This one gets that coming and going. You can either use it with the SkyScanner to get something back, or you can get the SkyScanner back. Or do both halves of it, which is nice. So I really like SkyScanner, and I think it's just a great card.
Card's really sweet. It's just value. you know?
Yeah.
Replaces itself. You have an evasive blocker / attacker. Keys off a lot of really cool things that are happening right now in standard and standard card and format for Brawl and whatnot. Super sweet. And also one of those cards that, much like my number 9, is good early and good late. Because when you play something on turn 2, first of all, if you're playing 2 mana and you're already getting a 2/3, like, we're already in raised stats, okay? That's where we're at nowadays. We're like, 2 mana, you're like, that's fine. What else you got? What else you got? That's where we're at. It's 2 mana, 2/3. You're like, and? Like, okay, fine, and. Thorn Lieutenant is a green and generic mana for a rare elf warrior that is a 2/3. A green and generic mana 2/3. And whenever Thorn Lieutenant becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. Oh, and by the way, not done yet, for a 5 generic mana and a green, so 6 mana colon, it gets +4/+4 until end of turn. So it turns into a 6/7. This is, if they try to kill it with something specific, you get some value out of it no matter what. A 2 mana 2/3 is already well above the curve. And if you draw this thing late or you're flooding out, that's terrific. You'll just become an abyss. You'll just keep smacking until they die. That's how it works. This card is awesome.
Very similar to Sylvan Advocate in that it's a 2 mana 2/3 on turn 2, and then on turn 6 it does something else. Obviously having to use the mana in this case as opposed to pumping your land creatures or permanently becoming a 4/5. But that card saw a ton of play in Standard, and I expect this card to be no different. The fact that it has, slight protection from removal spells, it's pretty bad to try to take this down with a Doomblade, for example. This is a pretty darn good card.
Yeah, I've been seeing this actually already show up in a few deck lists that people are posting because, again, this thing is chock full of value. All right, let's move on here to number 8. We're almost getting to the my own abyss where I don't come back for a while, which is fine. Aaron, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is the only higher on my list tonight.
Fair enough. Well,
look at this. Before Evan goes and takes a nappy poo down at the retirement home, my number 8 is also higher on someone else's list.
Wow.
So you have number 8 all to yourself.
All to myself? Oh my goodness. First of all, of the ones that would be higher on someone else's list, I thought this was going to be higher. I guess it maybe doesn't even exist at this point because otherwise it would be higher on one of your lists so far. So, earlier we talked about Elder Dragons and how many may or may not show up. And this card, well, first of all, again, it's a reimagining of an old card, which is great, which is always cool and brings back nostalgia and how are they going to make it work. And the way that they focused this card in particular was really fascinating. Arcades the Strategist is a blue, white, and green and a generic mana. So 4 mana for a 3/5 mythic legendary Elder Dragon. It has flying and vigilance, and whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So that means if you play Wall of Omens, you draw 2 cards. Each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So your Wall of Omens is basically a 4/4 that drew you 2 cards when it entered the battlefield, as long as you have Arcades, obviously.
Cases.
So it's a good thing. He has very high toughness, difficult to deal with, going to require a removal spell, and when you're able to untap with Arcades, I feel like you just kind of go nuts. And this card just feels so ripe with potential. It's probably never going to be above tier 4.7 or whatever, but I desperately want this card to work in a constructed format because it seems like so much fun and there's so much value out of it. I mean, Wall of Roots alone lets you power this out on turn 3 and then have a 4/4 to attack with, which is insane.
This feels like the right time for it. We talked before about how towards the end of summer, there's this small period of time where a record number of sets are legal in Standard, and that's usually when the really broken strategies can come out to play because you're only going to have them for 3 months. And so I think if it's going to happen, I think this is the prime window for it. And I'd play a deck like that. I would play a wall deck that can do things.
I think it's going to need the modern card pool just because, again, Carve and Carriated and stuff that you can play, and Wall of Roots and Wall of Omens. But I just feel like that's an engine that once you start going, you're paying low numbers for high stats.
Olive, yeah.
So at least Saffron can make my dreams come true. There aren't a ton of
great defenders in Standard for this, unfortunately. I mean, you've got a bunch of Consulate Skygates and 4/4s for 2, basically, is what you got in Standard. But once you go to Modern, you've got Wall of Denial, which is a 3 mana with this in play, 8/8 Flying Shroud, right? We've got Tree of Redemption. You want to stomp over with a 13/13? That sounds like fun to me. Yeah, Arcadius the Strategist is a fascinating card. It's super cool. It's just the build around. I just love the callback to the flavor. It used to have the old Arcades Sabbath back in Legends had the castle text of untapped creatures got +2. This one also helping you on defense with the castle walls, but in a much more proactive strategy. Yeah, just a great choice.
And drawing you cards, like, you know.
And drawing you cards.
On top of the Doran ability.
Got that Panopter text whenever you play a creature with Defender.
There you go. All right, so move on here to number 7. I don't have one, and I won't.
Go take a nap.
Until number 3. Literally, my 7,
Really?
my 6, my 5, and my 4 are higher.
Ruben, it's up to us.
You guys got to carry me through here. I'm going to go take the naps. Ruben, what's your number 7?
Yeah, the patients are running the asylum now. Well, my number 7 is, for my money, the most handsome goblin I've ever seen in my entire life. And he is also the Trash Master. My number 7 is Goblin Trash Master. Goblin Trash Master is 2 colors, red, for a 3/3 Goblin Warrior, rare from M19. Has 2 lines of text. Other goblins you control get +1/+1. And sacrifice a goblin, destroy target artifact. I think this card is great. I think this card is really good, specifically as the goblin decks sort of start to take shape. We have War Chief in Standard. We have Skirk Prospector. We have some of these tools in place to be able to make a goblin tribal deck possible. Specifically with War Chief, this thing is a lord that will have haste the turn that it comes onto the battlefield and is able to get rid of troublesome artifacts either in Modern or in Standard. And as you've seen, actually Goblins has more popularity in Modern right now than it does in Standard. Being able to take out equipment and things like that, things that Goblins traditionally have a difficult time dealing with. And so I just really think that this card has what it takes to come through as a 2 or 3 as the top end of all of these Goblin curves.
Well, folks around here are too in love with their contraptions, you see. Does them some good if we smash one every so often. You see? Yeah, he's big, he's beefy, he's pumping up the other goblins. Like, Goblins is another one of those awesome decks of just like, it just needs that thing, right? Merfolk decks are good, but if you just print the wrong Merfolk, it's just like, oh god, we accidentally the whole format because you have the perfect piece of the puzzle you were waiting on. Maybe it could work in Standard. I'd be happy to do this into a Seed Game Commander. I'm totally all right with having that in my life. Just saying. So...
I've seen people already talking about this alongside Metallic Mimic, Goblin War Chief, Skirk Prospector, all of those cool tools coming together in Standard.
Someone even mentioned it in Legacy too, what with the bans now and artifacts being a thing in older formats. Yeah,
Goblins once upon a time ran a main deck copy of Tuk Tuk Scrapper. I imagine this just goes in on top of that, it's like replaces that immediately. And so if Goblins has its heyday once again, folks around here, they're going to start playing Goblin Trash Master.
That's awesome. Aaron, what's your number 7?
If you've played EDH for any good period of time, you've run into who I lovingly refer to as the Ristic Studies guy, who's like, Ristic Study. That guy where every time you do something, that's just a voice of Ristic Study. My friend Peter in my local pod is the Ristic Studies guy. I actually bought him a playmat that is literally just Ristic Study pay 1, because that's what he's known for. And so cards like that in Mystic Remora are very much a thing in EDH. And this is a card, my number 7 is a card that I think can fit in really well with this. Most importantly, because you ain't got to ask, you just get to do it. And I ain't got to hear you ask me every time I do something. My number 7 is Runic Armasaur. So Runic Armasaur is a 2 power 5 toughness dinosaur for 1 and 2 green, and it says whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. No tax, no permission, it just happens. So if you're playing EDH and you've got a good 3 other people, every time they do just about anything, you're drawing cards. Like, this card can get out of hand fast. A good 5 toughness butt on it means it can survive most things, but this card is sweet. It's currently going for $3. A lot of hype that I've seen around it. I don't run a lot of green in EDH, but I'd certainly try to with this card. It just looks like so much fun.
Yeah, I was like, can this ever work in Standard? Is this a thing? What are you stopping? Like, Hazaret's ability or something? You know what I mean? Like, there's not a whole lot that's going to hit. Now, in casual formats, in the brawls and the EDH, this thing is ridiculous. This thing must die before you draw your entire deck. because everyone's doing everything all the time with their creatures and lands.
This was my number 8.
Nice.
And I have no further commentary other than to say fetch lands.
Lands gotta fetch.
I mean, I'll allow it. That's good, clean living.
That's a large
Some
derriere.
Todd Stevens stuff right there. Just whoop.
There you go. Yeah, this is a card that I want to be good, but I don't think ever will. This is also one of those cards.
I think this card will be good.
Think it would be good in standard?
Maybe not standard. There are no fetch lands in standard.
Oh, you think it would be good in older formats? Really?
Yeah, modern. Why not?
Wow.
Why don't we play this in our collected company decks? This has 5 toughness. It's impossible to attack through.
Right.
It almost always will draw a card or eat a removal spell.
Sure.
Right? What more do you want out of your collected company Todd Stevens exactly kind of decks?
I'll take it. I'm excited for the idea. I hope it works. This is also, to me, the type of card that, get your foils cheap, and then, 3 years from now, they're going to be worth $1 million.
Foils of this are going to look gorgeous, too. Look at those spines on the back of the Stegosaurus.
Prismatic scales,
with, the drawings on them and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are super sweet. All right, so we're going to move on here to number 6. Guess who ain't got one? Ruben, what's number 6?
My number 6, we talked a little bit about my number 6 in a previous official episode, not the extra crispy top 10s that we have, but the original flavor of Core M19, where we were like, is this the card? Is this why all of these -1/-1 effects are happening? Is this why Chain Whirler got printed? Is this why the Black Horse got the -1/-1? Like, what's going on here? And then we saw the tweet that Jazal Goldmane was going to be too powerful in Standard. And then we all went, wait a second. How could that possibly be that Jazal Goldmane would be too good in Standard? Well, if you've got Leonin War Leader on the battlefield,
so good.
It's possible. So 2 colorless white for a 4/4 Cat Soldier. We're already 4 mana for a 4/4.
Seems fine.
Which mono white doesn't really get. And whenever Leonin War Leader attacks, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking.
Jesus.
I played with Hero of Bladehold quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Hero of Bladehold, but it's close.
You'll take it.
But I'll take it. Yeah.
I mean, it literally deals.
Get out of bed for eating Cheetos or whatever the saying is. It also follows up nicely. Turn 4 War Leader, turn 5 Regal Caracal.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to attack with your now 5/5 War Leader and your now 2/2 cat tokens. So
I mean, that Chain Whirler, while being kind of oppressive, it's one of those things that literally keeps lids on formats to stop things like this from literally being just the best thing you can do, which is just token everywhere token. Right. It's you got to have some stop gaps. Now, they might have made it too good of a stop gap, did it really need First Strike, for example?
I also think that this creature goes kind of over the top of Chain Whirler.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only is it a 4/4, so it isn't really affected by the Chain Whirler's chains, but the tokens come in attacking. They aren't just sitting out there waiting to get whirled on your opponent's turn.
Right.
So Chain Whirler is good against this card, but it's not the end all be all.
Well, this was my number 7, so your number 6, my number 7. I have a feeling that may happen a few times more.
Maybe a theme.
Maybe a theme. But and that's just a different evaluation. But again, this to me is one of the best cards of the set. To me, there's a reason that Paul Cheon said, look, this is one of my favorite cards in the set. He is a Pro Tour player. He is the play design guy. He is the guy who's I shape your formats. I'm telling you. And I'm just I got you. I got you. This card is nuts, and I'm not sleeping on it. I'm telling you right now, this kitty cat is awesome. I hope there's a kitty cat deck. That would make me so happy. There's probably not, but it's okay.
There might be.
This is one of those, it's so much value, you could just play it in a white deck for value, because value. #value. Yeah. Aaron, rather. What is your number 6?
So I didn't do very well at the pre-release. I only went 1 and 2. I built myself a sweet little Orzhov life gain deck because, of course, I did. And I had a lot of fun playing with all of the triggers and gaining life, and that I had 2 diamond mares, and so gaining life, and I had the Epicure where every time you gain it drains, and so I had a lot of fun playing around with that. And my number 6 is a card I especially had fun with in that I was able to chain a series of things together to get up enough resources to kill a colossal Dreadmaw, which which felt fantastic. It's a really neat take on removal spells and sort of adding a sliding scale to a removal spell, as opposed to being straightforward like a Go for the Throat or a Doomblade that just does it. This lets you kind of play with it a little bit depending on how much you invest in it. And number 6 is Nightmare's Thirst. So Nightmare's Thirst is 1 black. It's an instant. It says you gain 1 life, and then target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So I had 2 of my little diamond mares, 1 black, 1 white. I invoked the Divine, gained 5 life, so 4 from the invoke, 1 from the mare, gained 1 life from this, and then killed a Dreadmaw. And so it was really neat kind of assembling these things together and letting that -X really be as big as I could get it. So that was a lot of fun. And we saw something like this with Dark Salvation being, -X being for the number of zombies. And I think this is a really neat space for black to play with. It can be a kill spell that is not just to destroy, which is fine, but a minus gets around things like indestructible regenerate, but it can be as big as you can get it. And I love that. And I hope that they explore this a little bit more. I think the art is super creepy. Shout out to Igor Kirlik. But if you are playing a life gain deck, this card can do a lot of work for you.
This card is sweet. I love the design of this. This is one of those, like, somebody thought outside the box. It's really clear. It's really fun. It's really interesting the way that it kind of pulls and pushes in different ways. Like, well, I could kill this now, but if I can get this, life linker to hit it, I can, chain them together and blah, blah, blah. That's really sweet. And you have a whole... Yeah, you have a whole color pie around that, like color pie.
Yeah, I was doing that. I had a couple of the Sovereign's Thirsts, and I was in that position of, well, I can do this now, or can I chain these things together and make it really big and kill a really big threat? And that was fun.
That's super cool.
This was very close to my top 10. I think that this card also has a chance of breaking through and seeing play in Standard. There's already the Black-White Knight deck. There's plenty of ways to mess around with life gain shenanigans, as we just talked about with the War Leader as well. I think that this has a possibility of really shaping a deck around it as its removal spell, sort of like how Dark Salvation was the removal spell for that Mono Black Zombies deck. This has a similar application.
All right, so we're going to move on here to number 5. Ruben, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is a legendary creature from this set, but it is not one of the Elder Dragons. It's one that I think has a possibility of having, again, another build around me kind of strategy, really interesting potential with Psy Master Thopterist. Psy Master Thopterist is a 2 colorless and a blue legendary creature human artificer. He's a 1/4 rare, and whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying, and also pay a colorless and a blue and sacrifice 2 artifacts. Draw a card. There's just so many cool things that you can do with Psy. The most obvious one to me is this is the first real good card with Mox Amber that I can recall seeing, where you play Psy on turn 3, play a Mox Amber, and make a Thopter, and then you leave your mana up for Opt or Spell Pierce or what have you. There are plenty of ways to get cheap artifacts onto the battlefield. You can chump block with your Thopters to draw lots of cards. Pairs really nicely with Pia Nalar in Standard for a little while. For your blue-red artifact deck, there are a couple of other interesting things to do with your artifacts in this set as well. So I think that this is and the Horned Turtle stats are nothing to sneeze at. 4 toughness is a lot. Yeah. And so they can hold the ground, stand in front of a Chain Whirler that's attacking, for example. I think that this card's great.
It's a house. I faced it at the pre-release, and I was when it first hit, I was like, all right, well, let's see what it's capable of. And once the ball got rolling, it was an engine in and of itself.
Wow. I mean, this card has been looked at by some pretty big names on a lot of best of lists already. It's the 4 toughness, again, to get around Lightning Strike and to block Chain Whirler. That's what this format right now is about. So it passes those bars. So it is an engine in and of itself, which I love, because not only is it making the Thopters, which again is making your own army, you can just sacrifice them after chump blocking, for example, to just draw you more cards, which ideally will draw you more artifacts. And again, it even makes additional Mox Ambers fine. You're like, okay, sure, whatever. I get free artifact creatures out of it. So this card is sweet.
Fighting alongside with Skilled Animator, which I'm not sure we'll talk about, but it just in case, that's sort of like the heart and soul of the Neo and Soul artifact strategy that could be coming out soon.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Skilled Animator, which is a really cool card. Well, now I'm not sure if we're going to talk about it. But
well, I don't know.
It's a 3-mana 1/3 that makes an artifact a 5/5. Okay, we'll talk about it maybe later. I don't know, but it's really cool, and you need to know that it's cool.
If we talk about it later, we had a spoiler alert.
Yeah, a little up front there. Of course, I don't have a number 5. If you guys need to be reminded that, it's on somebody's list somewhere. Aaron, what's your number 5?
I want to get serious for a second. If there are any young women watching this show, and I hope there are, I want you to know that you can be anything you want to be, okay? If you want to be a lawyer, you can be a lawyer. If you want to be a doctor, you can be a doctor. And if you want to be a big titty goth girlfriend, you can be a big titty goth girlfriend. My number 5 is Isareth the Awakener. So Isareth is a 3/3 legendary creature, human wizard. For 1 and 2 black, she has Death Touch. And whenever Isareth attacks, you may pay X. When you do, return target creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a corpse counter on it. If that creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. This card is everything I want to be doing in life. The art is fantastic. Shout out to Jason Rainville. If you just look at her, she got a bird on her head. Like, who doesn't want to live that life? Like, she through the script, like, I got all this. This is fine. I love this. This card is so great. It doesn't take a lot to really get her going. Obviously, Chain Whirler is a bit of an issue, but if you're playing black, you probably have a way to get rid of Chain Whirler to clear the path for her, and what a path it is. And this art is just full of Easter eggs. I feel like I discover something new every time I look at it. Shout out to Ruben for coming up with her stellar nickname, but she's just everything you want to be doing, and I can't wait to see people cosplaying her and specifically playing with her. If anyone has a commander deck in mind, send it my way, but this card is glorious.
It's a family-friendly show. It's a family-friendly outfit. She still has Death Touch. That's my favorite. Now, again, Chain Whirler aside, you're going to have removal spells. She has Death Touch. She's going to take down anything that's going to finally get in front of her. That's incredible.
She has, look at her.
The stats are right there where you need them to be. 3 mana, 3/3, does something awesome the next turn. Your opponent's going to be really scared of it.
And again, like when I said during the show, on turn 4, you either cast Naru Meha or reanimate a Naru Meha, which pumps her, because she's a wizard, up to 4/4. You're attacking with a 4/4 on turn 4 in that blue-black wizards deck that I'm going to affectionately refer to as Suicide Girls.
Wow.
For our big titty goth girlfriend.
Oh my god.
This is my deck. This is our deck name. We can make it happen, people.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I think that this card is really good and is and has a potential to see play in standard. I think specifically, all joking aside, in that shell with Naru Meha and Isperia.
I think it'd be more likely in the zombie deck, but that's just me.
Well, she's not herself a zombie, is the thing. I think that if you're playing the zombie deck, you're going to have Liliana to be able to reanimate your stuff and your
That's right. Where'd that Porke? Where'd that no los dos, yo?
I guess you could have them all, but she's not a zombie, is my point. Like, there's only so much room for non-zombies in your zombie deck.
Okay, she doesn't believe in labels. Okay.
You like I learned when I was growing up, you can be anything you want to be, but you can't be everything you want to be. You gotta pick. And I think that she would pick to be a human wizard rather than in a zombie deck.
Pick and choose. All right, so let's move on here to number 4. Still don't have one. Still missing. And this is the last one until I get a same later on, which we'll talk about, which is fine. So, Ruben, what's your number 4?
Finally have an Elder Dragon on my list.
Oh.
This one, I think, is one of my... I'm really happy with how Wizards of the Coast has sort of, obviously because I'm a huge D&D nerd, has taken some of the old D&D stuff and worked it into Magic. Suspicious Bookcase being a great example of that. Another one is that there are several dragons, primarily the green dragons, the silver dragons, and I believe the bronze dragons can do it, and the iron dragons, or the blue dragons can also do it, can become human. They can transform into human form and walk around and exist just as a humanoid, living life peaceably among the bipedal, ape-like humans. And then they can turn back into big badass dragons later if they want to. And that is the flavor that we get from Chromium the Mutable. Chromium the Mutable is 4 colorless, white, blue, black for a 7/7 flash, flying. This spell can't be countered. Ooh. Elder Dragon.
Yeah.
It's a mythic from M19. But also has the following ability. Discard a card. Until end of turn, Chromium the Mutable becomes a human with base power and toughness 1/1. Loses all abilities, gains hexproof, and can't be blocked this turn. So Chromium the Mutable becomes an invisible stalker. Walks amongst the people without really even being seen. Just a really cool, interesting card. 7/7 for 7 with flash. that can't be countered is an excellent control finisher, being able to protect itself at the low cost of just discarding a card. You can also poke in for 1 damage if you really care to. I think that this card's great and super interesting.
This is my number 8. Definite flavor win. And this is something in the lore. I believe Chromium turns into a character named Ham, I believe it is, or Ham. And so this seems like on paper it'd be very difficult to incorporate into a card, but I'm really glad that they tried. I think they did a wonderful job, and I would love to see more things like this in the future.
Yeah, this card is just fan-freaking-tastic. In terms of, again, the story you're trying to tell, becoming an invisible stalker, what the control players want. This is like every control player's card. Just give me this thing that can't be stopped. It's going to kill you. You have to answer it now. You have to have some way to not target it. Otherwise, I'm going to stop you from targeting it as long as I have at least 1 card in my hand. And they're a control deck, which means they should always have cards in their hand. Yeah, so this card is sweet. This was my number 5 and is currently on the list, the short list of the only card that's on all 3 lists so far. So
this is Ham the Trickery Man.
Yeah.
I've learned from the wiki.
Ham? All right, Ham.
It's Ham or Ham.
You gotta never go full Ham.
Ham is where the heart is.
Wow, Aaron, what's your number 4?
My number 4 was the first card I ever saw from M19. I think it was even like a leaked version. I don't know if it was like a promo or something, but it was the first card I saw. Everybody tagged me in it, and I was so excited I couldn't scream. It was almost like a dog whistle. Like when you're so high-pitched, you're just like... and your words just don't come out and sound just doesn't come out, but it's so on brand for me. It was actually my pre-release promo from this weekend, which I was really stoked about until I realized that I had no way to really get any use out of it. So it unfortunately didn't fit in my deck, but I'm very excited to try it in several of my EDH decks, specifically my She-Ray deck. Fun rules fact around this, which we'll get into. I'll just name the card first. My number 4 is Desecrated Tomb. So Desecrated Tomb is 3 colorless. It's an artifact. It says whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. And so if you're using a Relic of Progenitus and wiping a graveyard, you only get 1 bat. However, if you have 3 Bloodghast triggers, you get 3 bats because it's 1 for each instance, if you will.
Right.
So it's a fun little rules tidbit for you. But this card is great. This is another one of those cards we really haven't had a cracked tomb before, seriously, in 25 years. And so, but the flavor of it, the idea of a tomb having already been opened and the only thing being left are bats, and bat tokens are awesome. And there's been a lot of talk of this being, just a fun kind of sideboard card for the graveyard decks, where if you can't do what you want to be doing, that's fine. I'll just kill you with a bunch of bats. That's cool. And so this is a token we don't really see a lot of, and I love everything about this. It's very on brand for me, and I'm anxious to see what kind of dumb things I can do with it.
This is about as on brand as Aaron gets.
I was so excited. I was like, ah!
So let me get this straight. If you have a graveyard that's as tall as the Wall of China, and I exile it with Tormod's Crypt,
I only get 1 bat because that's one.
You only get 1 bat.
Yeah,
because it's whenever 1 or more creature cards.
Okay.
So because of that, it has to happen in 1 instance. So again,
well, that's too bad.
But Bloodghast, Narcotic, Amalgams, things that happen 1 at a time, but multiples, those will get you multiple bats.
Yeah.
So I want to put this in my
Scavenging Ooze, things like that.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, because you got to pay 1 for each. Right. Yeah, so I want to put this in my She-Ray deck because we're known for sacrificing all our things, and then She-Ray makes them all come back, and so you get some bats on the way in.
Okay, sure.
That sounds like fun. I mean,
that doesn't sound too bad.
God. Oh, all right. Let's move on here to number 3. I've got one. I'm so excited.
Wow.
Clearly, you guys aren't seeing the same potential that I am in a certain card that I clearly have misspelled and am blanking on.
I love it so much I can't spell it.
Yeah. All right. How about... There we go. Well, I was calling it something... Well, I wrote it down as something different because I normally... And you'll understand in a second. In terms of the kind of creature it is, I kind of always assume that it's a certain creature type depending on the power level, right? Okay, cool. This is a mythic. It's very high powered. It powers itself. It can become amazing all by itself. It's good on the curve. It's good early. It's good late. These are the cards which standard formats often rotate around. Like, they're so good. You're like, my God, have you read Resplendent Angel? Which I thought originally was Resplendent Archangel. Oops. Because this card is a house. This card is 2 white and a generic mana for a 3/3 mythic angel, has flying. At the beginning of each instep, If you gained 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. Also, because it needed to be its own engine, 3 white, 3 generic mana, until end of turn, Resplendent Angel gains +2/+2 and gains lifelink. So she becomes a 5/5 lifelinker to make your more 4/4 angels that are awesome. And it just, this card was like, this is what you want to be doing in your white aggressive decks. Maybe there's like Angel Tribal. Maybe, I don't know. We got so many angels at all the different mana
Heather
costs.
Dawn? Where's Revised Angel?
I'm just saying, this card is insane. Like, they tend to give certain cards to certain outlets based on what those outlets do, right? So they gave this to Star City Games, clearly constructed oriented. This is the card that you want to be when you're looking at sort of the constructed tournament worthy decks. It's like $17 or whatever for a reason, and that reason is because this thing, there's so much potential. It hasn't gotten there yet, but there is potential for miles. So.
Yeah, this card's bananas. Another 3/3 for 3 with 2 upside abilities. This one actually has 3 upside abilities, just like Asperia that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Isarath.
Oh, sorry, Isarath, not Asperia. Asperia is the Sphinx from the Azorius. Why do I keep saying that?
Yeah, what's up with that?
Whatever. Isarath. I apologize to. I'll never get a big titty goth girlfriend.
For God's sake.
With that kind of attitude is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
In any case, Resplendent Angel and Isarath have the same issue of existing alongside a Braid, unfortunately. And also there's lots of murder type effects for 2 mana that, unfortunately, if you're paying 3 mana, you need it to do something, or it needs to protect itself in some way, shape, or form. And so this probably is going to be more of a Desecration Demon style card where it's not going to have a breakout impact immediately, but just wait a little bit. Because it's not always going to exist in a world with a Braid. Sure, there'll still be lightning strikes. Sure, there'll still be -3/-3 effects. But someday it will be Resplendent Angel's day. And this card is too good not to be a player in Standard.
Fair enough. All right, Ruben, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is a card that also dies to a Braid. But you know what? They don't really care. Because, like, why would a zombie care about dying? Like, you're so good. I do.
On your list?
I have a zombie at my number 3, a zombie named Marshall. My number 3 is Graveyard Marshall. It's black for a zombie soldier, 3/2. It's a rare. Pay 2 colorless and a black and exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token.
2 mana 3/2. We're already at 2 mana 3/2, and you got to be like, not good enough. Keep going.
Back in the day, if you paid black for a 3/2, you were getting Hazran Ogres. Oh. And that meant that you were taking damage from your own Hazran Ogres, not making more zombies in the future.
I don't know. They come into play tapped, though. That's kind of
I don't know, man. And also flavor text from Isarath.
Oh my god, if only it was like the greatest top deck late game in your zombies deck. You're like, oh, thanks, yeah, my army's coming. Everybody out of the graveyard. Come on, bats. Let's do this with these zombies. It's fantastic.
This is the best 2-drop, 5-drop, and 8-drop in your zombies deck.
Yeah, absolutely. This card is sweet. This is one of those cards that when they gave us Liliana, I'm like, we need something like this that is like clearly you're running 4 of, clearly it's terrific, and you're not going to run 4 of in the zombies deck. That's what we got. This card is great. Aaron, what's your number 3? Oh God. Oh God. Oh God.
Speaking of the zombies, the true hallmark, I think, of a zombie deck or any sort of deck revolving around dead things is that you don't care if your creatures die. You really don't. You want to play things that either can just come back again and again to where death isn't permanent, or you get something for your trouble. Like, for example, Bridge from Below. Bridge from Below can very easily turn 1 creature into 4 creatures, and that's fine. You're more than happy to do that. But Bridge from Below comes with a downside in that if your opponent's creatures ever die, bridges get exiled. And so sometimes you get that really savvy opponent who will bolt their own Delver or abrupt decay their own Tarmogoyf, and then you're not having fun anymore. But what if you could do all of that and actually cast the card? Because casting Bridge from Below does nothing. But what if you could cast it and there's no downside? It's just all you all the time. I'm in. Number 3 is Open the Graves. So Open the Graves is 3 and 2 black. It's an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you get a 2/2 black zombie creature token. I'm in. What really seals the deal for me is this artwork. Shout out to Vincent Prose, who's known for sort of doing very creepy horror type art. You basically see what appears to be like a zombie wedding, almost like a zombie procession. And I didn't know this until we talked about this on the show, but you see a human hiding behind a tombstone with a frying pan as the procession walks by him. And that's so awesome. I just thought he was another zombie who maybe lost his way or lost his legs. Oh no, that's the one person who has to watch all of this go down. And so this card is just dripping with the horror, with the flavor. It's beautiful in a way. It's everything I want to be doing. You know, if you're playing a zombies deck, kill it. I don't care. I'll get one for my trouble. And so this is just, you know, the peak of black decks and zombie decks. And I can't wait to use this maybe in standard. Liliana's Mastery saw play for like a minute in the last zombie deck, and that cost like 6. So there's a chance this could see play, but EDH especially, it's just everything I love.
Well, this is the type of card that's perfect in the sideboard of zombie decks against a lot of removal, a lot of, wraths or whatever, fumigates and stuff.
Wipe the board!
Please, it's fine, it's cool, who cares? I mean, this is also like the opening of Thriller, you know, the music video Thriller Night, the guy at the frying pan, scary, you know, do. That's right. So, it's Thriller Night, y'all. Fantastic.
Yep.
Those who are listening to the audio.
Above.
Wow. So we're moving on here to number 2. And turns out, not only do I have 4 hires on my list, I got a same.
High five, buddy.
Oh, it's me and you. All right, well, that's pretty cool. Because this is my pick for, it has to be the sleeper of the set. And no one seems to be, it's very Rodney Dangerfield. Ain't no respect up in here for what is clearly one of the best green planeswalkers ever made. Yeah. Vivian Reed is sweet, and I share it with Ruben, tell us what Vivian Reed does.
So Vivian Reed is a 5-mana legendary planeswalker Vivian, mythic from M19. For your cost of 3 colorless green, you get a 5 loyalty planeswalker with 3 abilities. +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. -3, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. And -8, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have vigilance, trample, and indestructible.
Jesus.
Which is fine.
That's a whole mess of a lot of things.
+1, you're drawing a card. Like, it's happening.
Yeah. +1, draw a card.
Yeah, whether it's a good threat or whether you're fixing your mana. Okay, and you're already at 5 mana by the time you play her, right. So you may either you're going over the top.
You're not getting another Vivian Reed. Is the only thing that's going to be in your deck really with Vivian Reed that you're not going to get.
But in a ramp strategy, what you want to do is to find those fatties, find the payoff, find the cards you need, or you're looking for the lands to play the fatties because you're just like a mana or 2 off. So she helps in both of those regards. Her -3 hits so many things, just a ton. The cast outs between the vehicles, between the glory bringers, like she kills a ton of stuff already. Yeah, so this is if they just call this Garrick, I think people would be way more excited about it and would be at least sort of more respectful, I guess, in a way. It's like an $8 card. Like, this is not an $8 planeswalker. Yeah. This is a fantastic planeswalker that can drive a new archetype basically by herself because the power level here is super high.
Well,
sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think if I had to guess as to why she's not getting more attention, is that are there really any green decks in Standard right now? Like,
that's the big problem, is that no green cards are seeing play in major decks right now. Wow. Chain Whirler took out Llanowar Elves from underneath people's feet. And so there just hasn't been a green deck seeing any play recently.
Well, not necessarily. There's the green steel. There's like the green stompy decks or whatever.
Steel blade stompy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're like, there's no green decks in steel. I'm like, there's a green deck.
No, I don't mean that. I just mean that not on the level of like.
It's not
I
tier
just think
1.
it's a risk. Yeah, I just think it's a risk to play it. Like,
it is certainly the 5th most popular color right now.
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned that, like, you know, it's like it could be a build around or something like that, but then the things around it have to be good too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I think that the card Vivian Reed has all of the things in place to be good. We've compared her to Karn before, whereas Karn gives you the 2nd best card off the top of your library with his plus. This one gives you probably one of the better cards in your deck off of her plus. Karn's minus makes a creature protecting itself. Vivian minus protects itself by either getting rid of a cast out, getting rid of a glory bringer, getting rid of an elder dragon, perhaps getting rid of, some sort of mana artifact on your other side of the board, being able to do it in that form or fashion. Yeah. And of course, the ultimate on Vivian ends a game pretty much on her own. You're able to build up, fill your hand up with these creatures. The ultimate makes them gigantic and indestructible and have vigilance and trample. Right. And so I think that, and add that to the fact that it's 5 mana for 5 loyalty, immediately going up to 6 if you want her to. That's a high loyalty bar to set. I just think that this card, outside of, in a vacuum, is powerful enough to see play in Standard.
Absolutely. All right. So, Aaron, what's your number 2?
I was one of the people who played Cat Pact for a while, the combination of Demonic Pact and Harmless Authoring, where you would play Demonic Pact, you would use up all the modes, and when it came time to, shortly before the last mode, which would cause you to lose the game, would go into effect, you'd give it away and be like, here you go, and then your opponent would lose it. They'd lose the game. You could also do fun things with, like, Disperse, or, like, the bounce thing, where you can, like, bounce it back and then cast it again. And so there were all sorts of ways to kind of cheat death, which is very flavorful with Black, which is what I love. And this card continues that tradition of sort of cheating death, being able to do broken things with life gain and drawing cards. It's just very flavorful as well. My number 2 is Liliana's Contract. So Liliana's Contract is 3 and 2 black. It's an enchantment. It says when Liliana's Contract enters the battlefield, you draw 4 cards and you lose 4 life. This is fine. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more demons with different names, you win the game. This is essentially the moment when Liliana makes the deal with her 4 demons, Koptafed, Belzenlot, Grizzlebrand, and Razaketh.
Wow,
and you can even see, thank you. You can even see the 4 demons in the background, 4 cards for 4 demons, 4 life for 4 demons. The card is just really flavorful because it's an enchantment. You can bounce it. You can sacrifice it. There's all sorts of fun things you can do with it. And I just love the flavor. Shout out to Bastian Deharme, who really kind of keeps up the, he also did the anime Dead of the Sun Titan. And again, you see sort of the purples, which you don't often really see with Dead things. And I think it really adds a nice hue to this, as opposed to just going darker, blacker, darker. He really adds some light to this and makes it very creepy. And so it's very flavorful. It's something I would absolutely play with. And I love it. This is right up my alley.
I mean, purple is the color of royalty, so it really feels very Liliana to be sort of draped in purple and have a lot of purple sort of color hues. This was my number 6. This card is incredible. For those who haven't played with Titans, and my God, it's been a long time since I've played with Titans. It's been like 10 years. Oh my God, I'm old. But seriously, if you haven't had the joy of paying 5 mana for 4 cards, it is amazing. You're like, wow. And only replace itself and then up 3 cards beyond that. Like the other text is whatever. The other text is like silly, sure, maybe. Like if you want to get into like bounce and play it again, whatever, I just play another copy, honestly, and we just have.
It's your too.
That's okay too. I'm alright with that. But paying 4 life for 4 cards, very black, very very good. Again, this is the reason to me they gave this card to preview to Flores and Chapin, because this is the type of card that you need to think about it, but if you can get it and make it happen, this card is fan-freaking-tastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that, and we're gonna move on here to number 1, and I have 1 higher left on my list. So, Ruben, what is your number 1? I have a feeling it's yours because I have a feeling there's no way this is Aaron's number 1. So,
I would
know that.
I don't think I have a pretty good track record when it comes to my number 1s of the set during these shows in our top 10s.
Okay.
If you recall, during Hour of Devastation, your guys' number 1s were like Nicol Bolas and something else, and mine was a Braid, right? Because mine saw play, right? And I think that I'm on the right.
The pre-release, talk about seeing me play.
I think
who's the one that wins whenever she does the Patreon
reclaiming my time. I think that this card is the card that has the highest likelihood of actually having a major impact on how Standard is moving forward. My number 1 is and obviously it can't be Erin's because she hates cat people for some reason. She just has this thing.
I'm covered in cat hair right now.
Does not like a Johnny for some reason. Just has a huge beef with a Johnny. and therefore can't have my number one, a Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants.
Now listen, he reanimates things, so I'm willing to reconsider.
Okay, all right. Well, a Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants costs 2 colorless and a white for a 4 loyalty, 4 mana planeswalker, mythic from M19, legendary creature, a Johnny, +1. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures.
Okay.
It's good. -2, Aaron, pay attention. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. There it is. See, we're on the same page now.
Yeah,
Sweet.
-7, you get an emblem with 3 Dudes Seriously. At the beginning of your end step, create 3 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink.
That's
all
awesome.
those things. Every once in a while we'll get the question, if they could print a Magic card that was the combination of all 3 of you on it, this might be it. Honestly, I would be the +1, Aaron would be the -2, and Evan would be the -7.
That's very true. That's very true.
That's fantastic. I mean, ultimately, this was my number 4. Like, I do think this is in the top 5 cards of the set. For me, this is the one that's getting a ton of hype. The price isn't really there yet. It's about $12, $13 or whatever right now. But this is exactly the type of card, very sort of Gideon-esque, where it just goes into white decks because it's great. If you're playing smaller creatures, it's fantastic. If you're able to buff up your existing creatures, be able to get up to that ultimate. Ultimate is just like, I'm going to flood the board until you die. Like, that's just going to happen. This is a card that has to be answered. It goes up to 5 loyalty immediately, while again buffing whatever is going to be blocking for it. So it doesn't necessarily have can protect itself, but it can help to protect itself, which is very a Johnny. A Johnny is very much your companion, your aid, and also washboard abs, ridiculous washboard
cat abs,
like crazy cat abs. That dude's insane. Let's watch the shirt.
Shout out to Victor Menges for that artwork. Definitely feels like he stretched a couple of muscles there.
Yeah, Johnny's pissed. It's sometimes it's always easy in art to show somebody mad. Like Johnny's like, I'm pissed off. This is happening.
Yeah.
Aaron, what's your number 1?
We have been blessed to have received preview cards in just about every set in the 3 years that we've been live. I think there may be even 2 or 3 we didn't, and they might have been sets that we didn't care for, if we're being completely honest. Like, we weren't worried about it. But for the most part, we've been very, very fortunate. And usually it's a little bit of a struggle to keep the secret because we get them weeks in advance. And part of being a podcaster and being on the show is that you also have to keep your finger on the pulse of the community. So you have to see what people are saying. And sometimes they might say something and you can't say anything. You have to wait until your card goes live. And I never experienced this more than with my number 1, because we had the box mappers, the box charters, and they were going through and they were like, well, we're down to the wire and there's only room for 2 and they're planeswalkers. I was like, I couldn't say anything. And then I loved the card. I really couldn't say anything because I wanted to run through the hills and say, oh my God, we have this awesome card. And it also says something that we were given this card, because a lot of people get cards, but not everybody gets planeswalkers. And so this was our first planeswalker, I believe. And so that says a lot about us, that we were given this opportunity, and it also helps that the card is awesome. I don't think it's overtly awesome, though. I think it's a card that a lot of people have kind of poo-pooed, but the right people are going, there's something there. My number 1 is Liliana, Untouched by Death. So Liliana, Untouched by Death is 2 and 2 black. She's legendary planeswalker Liliana. Starts off with 4 loyalty. You can +1 her to put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. If at least one of them is a zombie card, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Note the each opponent, relevant in 2-headed giant and commander games. You can -2 her to have target creature get -X until end of turn, where X is the number of zombies you control. That's the Dark Salvation effect that we talked about. Putting that onto the card, making it a thing instead of just a one-time spell. And then you can -3 her right away even, and you may cast zombie cards from your graveyard this turn, sort of a rooftop storm kind of effect if you're familiar with that blue enchantment. So very obviously wants to be in a very specific kind of deck. You can't just put it in any deck, but in the right deck, it's going to do a lot of work for you. Again, shout out to Bastion DeHarme, the same artist who got the contract. You see this very confident, but still kind of demure and almost sly Liliana. I'm assuming this happened right after she made her pack, so she ain't going nowhere. She's really feeling the fact that she ain't dying anytime soon. You see the zombies around her, again, exemplifying the fog and the purple, which are really cool. But it was just such an honor to get this card, and this is a card that I'm waiting for people to crack the code for, and when they do, I'm going to be there.
I think the core 2019 art I would describe as flushed with sass, if you will.
Yeah.
Just got it. Just doing it. Just whatever.
Like, whatever am I going to do?
Like, I just have all of this power. That is incredible. And if you look at the just recently released San Diego Comic-Con promos, where Therese Nielsen absolutely destroys it with a stained glass nickel bolus. And she, of course, she has the geometric shapes that she's amazing at. And, like, it's just Therese. Therese is great.
This is the only of the Planeswalkers from M19 that is in the San Diego Comic-Con box set. The rest of them are from other sets. There's Chandra, Torch of Defiance. There's Jace Cunning Castaway. Liliana, Untouched by Death, is the only core M19 Planeswalker of the 5.
Well, certainly worthy of it and absolutely terrific. So, yeah, Liliana looks amazing, and of course the Christine connection when it comes to those promos and stuff is amazing too. So that works all the way around, and we come to my number one, which shouldn't be a huge surprise to a lot of people in terms of what it is. But ultimately, I feel like, and Wizards knows that if they hang their hat on certain things, you better not screw it up, right? You get one chance. You get one chance to make sure that if you have a marquee card, if you make this card as important as possible, you make sure that you spoil it during one of the biggest weekends in Magic, to make sure that you respectify, if you will, who Nicol Bolas is. If you're going to make a Nicol Bolas, just like in Hour of Devastation, if you're going to make it, you better God barrel it up. And this time they went a little low, so they go a little high. You know what I'm saying? Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, is fan-freaking-tastic. This card is a red, a black, a blue, and a generic mana. Just 4 mana for a 4/4 legendary Elder Dragon. That is, of course, mythic in M19. It has flying. And when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. So you are already up a card. This is already a 2-for-1, even if they can answer it immediately. Already a 2-for-1. But we ain't done because it's 2018. Magic cards aren't done. For a red, a black, a blue, and 4 generic mana. So for 7 mana, you can exile it and return it transformed onto the battlefield. A la Magic Origins, we are turning our legendary creatures into planeswalkers. And he turns into Nicol Bolas, the Arisen, with 7 loyalty, 7 delicious loyalty. And it has, of course, 4 abilities because it's Nicol Bolas. Why not just +2 and draw 2 cards? That immediately, that's go up to 9 loyalty. Good luck killing it at 9 loyalty. -3, it deals 10 damage to target creature or planeswalker. -4, target creature or planeswalker. Put target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Or -12, this beautiful, beautiful ender. Exile all but the bottom card of target player's library. That is amazing. And I believe it was Andrew Brown or someone from Play Design was saying, like, he's not just gonna kill you. He's going to give you that little tiny sliver of hope so he can just crush you into the dirt and you can just be like,
Jesus.
Maybe there's a so-and-so under there. There's never the so-and-so. There's just the loss. The loss is under there. That's where it is.
I'm really going to like the stories of... I imagine this will happen one time, ever. One time, where someone will scry a card to the bottom of their library, get Nicol Bolas the Arisen Ultimated, and then be like, ha-ha, my one out. It'd be hilarious. In any case, yeah, this is a amazing 4-mana creature. It's an amazing 11-mana planeswalker. It is a tower gargoyle on the front, a 4/4 flyer for 4 that immediately ravenous rats your opponent, making them discard something, so you're almost always getting a 2-for-1 out of it. It has 4 toughness, so it survives Lightning Strike, it survives a Braid. It is a dragon, so it survives Glorybringer. It's just great all the way around.
Yeah, this card is absolutely terrific, and if you can't handle him at his ravaging, you don't deserve him at his arising. You know what I'm saying?
No.
That's correct. So, and that to me, again, I just feel like this is the type of things that the sets hinge on. This is supposed to be the Nicol Bolas. He's in the key art. You can't make him suck, and I feel like they've done everything they can to make him powerful, to ideally not go too much, because this is the type of card, if you went too far... Yeah. We have a small Jace problem again. Remember the Jace thing? Yeah. And the Origins Jace?
Now, I don't call that a problem. Those were good days.
I mean, you were drawing.
I recently found my playset of Jaces in my car. They're sitting
in your
on my
car.
Table.
Where
they were
in
my
your
car? Yeah. They were in a basket. They were in a basket.
In a basket.
In my trunk.
Sleeved?
No. They were in a box. They were in a box.
My God, like Harry and the Hendersons over here. Like, wow.
You can find a lot of things in his car. It's just a trove of random elements. You roll the D20. If you crit, you get Jaces. And if you don't, you get in and out wrappers. It's bad. Yeah. It's weird. It's fantastic. So, no. And that was our top 10 MTG M19 cards. If you see them on the screen right now for review, if you'd like, take a look at my list, Aaron's list, Ruben's top 10. And we want to hear from you about what card we did not talk about, and we'll select our favorite to win a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. But before we go, I want to thank my co-host. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and I misspoke earlier. We give away a $50 gift certificate around here, not a $25. No, $25. We're going highfalutin. $50.
Yeah,
well, there you go.
We're gigging, baby. Yeah.
That's right.
If Colts fan stuck around the whole time, then he just made another $25. So like, wait a second.
What? Well, the shame. We're still wearing that shame, y'all.
Right.
That shame suit. All right, move to our final slide. All right, I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-host, Aaron Campbell, Ruben Bressler, you guys, for watching or listening, and I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mike Cast, our Magic Mike subreddit, or like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another Top 10 episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.